So we should talk for a second about value proposition development and the way in which you position your own capability. People who watch this, you'll work for a lot of different types of companies, and so I can't hope to write your value proposition for you all individually. However, there are some simple rules that make a lot of sense in the context of some of the other common sense suggestions we've made through this series of shows. We've talked about thinking about strategic business needs. We've talked about getting to political levels of influence and to places where people are making genuinely meaningful decisions for businesses. And we've talked about managing and controlling some of the tactical differentiators by driving at a strategic level and making sure you're articulating value across a business. So what does articulating value mean? You know what, as with many things in sales, it really isn't very complicated. Articulating value is about being specific. Very often you hear people talking about their products, and they'll talk in very general terms about what it does. They'll talk about what it's capable of achieving technically or some of the features and functions. And I mean, we all learn early on to talk about features, advantages, benefits. It's a simple rule here. Take the benefit and think about what impact that might have on the specific business that you're working with. What specific value, measurable in dollars, pounds, or whatever, could it particularly create for this exact company that you're working with based on its very unique business conditions, business imperatives, desires, and objectives? And seek to measure it. So if you have a product that helps, that helps executives better communicate to frontline staff in order to reinforce corporate messaging, let's talk to the customer about what it means to them to be able to better improve their corporate messaging and see what effect they think it'll have, on productivity of staff, on profitability of a manufacturing line, on the safety of a manufacturing line, and talk with the client about what value that creates and capture it. It's pretty simple. And then in everything you do, read that back. Orient around that value. In every conversation you have with every other person that you talk with at the client, check that value. Augment it. Ask if what you're proposing will have any other effects. Value propositions are not complicated. I think marketing textbooks tend to make them so. It's a link between what your solution does and what it's capable of, what it's generically capable of achieving for businesses, and a link specifically to the business you're dealing with and their issues and the specific value that it will create for them. And if it's worth doing once, it's worth doing always. And the mantra that we use with clients, and again, what we see with high-performing salespeople wherever we go, is that they're always seeking points of value. They're always seeking to establish and understand the specific effect that can be had with the solution that they're proposing, so that they can better prescribe it, better present it, better position it as they build proposals, documents, RFP responses, and presentations. Remember as well that there's a cost of no action in most businesses. If you're really focused on things that are genuinely strategic to an organization, that it genuinely finds to be important, that they're generally and genuinely at executive level motivated to achieve, then just as there's a value to help them achieve it, there's an equal and opposite lack of value in not achieving it. There's a cost of no action. It's a simple saying in the amateur psychology world that, people are motivated by two things, pleasure and pain. And it's generally thought and accepted that people are motivated kind of equally by pleasure and pain. I think in the world of sales, that may or may not be true, but I think there's certainly a weighting. We tend to find that customers are far more heavily motivated to avoid the cost of no action, to avoid the impact of non-achievement of strategic goals, than they necessarily are just by the vision of achieving the goal. So these two things go hand in hand. We've talked before about spin questioning. Spin questioning focuses on impacts, implications, effects. I'll encourage you all to think not just about impact and effect of performance of your solution, but to really think about how well you could motivate your clients and drive decisions if you also articulate the value of non-achievement, value of failure, value engaging with you in order to drive a solution. As you build ROI models, return on investment models, profit improvement plans, statements of value for your clients, think about that duality It's fair to say that, $1 million return on investment to a company is meaningful. But $1 million return on investment as compared to a $750,000 cost of no action gives you a $1.75 million gap to sell to, which can be far more meaningful, drive far more motivation. So basically you do both and allow the customer to compare by driving that conversation. And driving the conversation is important because you're also trying to work interpersonally with the client to draw them in, to motivate them, to engage them in discussing that cost of no action, so that you're dealing with the sensitivities that they feel individually of that non-achievement. It's about motivating people, and it's not just in the numbers. Measuring the business value is a real critical part of being able to drive decisions in an organization. We've said before that sales is political. Selling is about managing influence. Selling is about controlling influence. And selling is about understanding that using and managing people in different ways, and I don't want that to sound too harsh, using is not entirely about puppetry and tacit control. It's just about leveraging people for the things they want to be leveraged for so they achieve their personal goals. These things are critical. Motivation to fix business issues and to achieve business challenges is highest at the top of a business, where PR is everything, where career development is at a premium, where the options for advancement are huge but limited. And so we work with most of our clients, and they certainly focus their high performers at the top of businesses to drive influence and control. I'd encourage you in all accounts to look for that level of influence and control, to look for the motivation at the top of the business, and then to think about the control you exert, the decisions you look to manage, the level of criteria you look to drive in order that you can more successfully accelerate and intensify your sales approach.